Howard Wolowitz is the show's most misunderstood case study. He was a victim of spousification, wearing a creep survival mask to endure a mother who treated him like a replacement for his father. While most fans focus on his jokes, the real story is a 20-year-old letter that should have crushed him, but instead triggered a total psychological restructuring. Today, we're proving why Howard, not Sheldon, is the true benchmark for growth. By the end, you'll see exactly how a person breaks a cycle of trauma and rebuilds a broken identity. Most people see early season Howard and see a pervert. They're not wrong, but they're missing the why. Howard wasn't trying to get laid. He was trying to be seen. In psychology, this is a survival mask. When your home life is a vacuum of boundaries, you overcompensate in public. Howard's father left when he was 11. Therefore, his mother, Debbie, didn't just raise him. She consumed him. Compare this to Sheldon Cooper. Sheldon's lack of social awareness isn't a mask, it's a shield. Sheldon uses his genius to stay a child. He demands a roommate agreement to control his environment. He refuses to drive. He lives in a world where everyone else adapts to him. Therefore, while Sheldon spent 12 seasons refining his eccentricities, Howard was forced to dismantle his entire personality. Howard's creep persona was a performance for an audience. Sheldon's behavior was a demand for a caretaker. One was trying to survive. The other was trying to be served. Before we look at the house that built this version of Howard, I have to ask you, who is the cringiest character in sitcom history? Is it early season Howard, or is there someone who makes your skin crawl even more? Drop that name in the comments right now. I want to see if we can find a bigger survival mask than this bowl cut. Because if you think Howard is bad now, wait until you see what was happening behind his bedroom door. Most 25-year-old men are figuring out their careers. Howard was figuring out how to apply his mother's estrogen cream. That's the reality behind that door. It wasn't just funny shouting, it was infantilization. But here is the difference. Howard hated the cage. Sheldon built his own. Howard was a literal NASA engineer, being forced into the role of a nurse and a beautifier. When your mother demands you help her into a support girdle, your boundaries don't just blur, they vanish. This created a psychological rebound. Because he was so smothered at home, he became the smotherer in the streets. He was desperate to exert power elsewhere because inside that house was still an 11-year-old boy waiting for a father who never came back. Then comes Bernadette. Most sitcom wives are shrews who nag their husbands, but Bernadette is different. She is a mirror. She didn't just love Howard. She challenged the mother proxy. Howard tried to make Bernadette act like his mother. Therefore, Bernadette set boundaries he never had. Now look at Amy Farrah Fowler. For years, Amy's growth was stunted because she had to mother Sheldon just to keep him. Bernadette refused to play the game. She forced Howard to transition from a son husband to a partner husband. This was the first stage of Howard's restructuring. Finding a woman who refused to be his mother. For 10 seasons, the running joke was that Howard only had a master's degree from MIT. Sheldon used this as a weapon. He used it to imply Howard was intellectually inferior. But if we look through a different lens, we see the ultimate irony. Sheldon's doctorate was his security blanket. It was a title that demanded respect he hadn't earned socially. Therefore, he stayed in the academia bubble where he could be a prodigy forever. Howard, however, had to face the cold reality of the physical world. He built things that had to work in the vacuum of space. When Howard went to the International Space Station, he wasn't just a master of engineering. He was a man literally leaving the gravity of his mother's influence. Sheldon remained in the same spot for a decade. But Howard broke the ultimate glass ceiling. He proved that a title doesn't define your height, your ability to evolve does. Season 6, Episode 19, The Closet. They find a letter from Howard's father. Howard's first instinct is to burn it. But the friends intervene. They each tell him a different version of what the letter said. One is a secret half-brother. One is a heartfelt apology. One is a mundane card. This is the turning point. Howard chooses to believe all of them and none of them. He let go of the need for a true father and decided to become one himself. While Sheldon spent the series obsessed with his own legacy, Howard became obsessed with his children's future. This is where the Howard we knew officially dies. He stopped being a victim of his past and started being the architect of his future. Then came the babies, Hallie and Neil Michael. This is where the psychological restructuring becomes permanent. Most victims of abandonment, like Howard, unconsciously repeat the pattern. But Howard did something radical. He became the father he never had. If you watch closely, Howard's parenting style is the opposite of his mother's enmeshment. He doesn't smother his children. He protects them while letting them grow. He turned his trauma into a blueprint for what not to do. Look at Sheldon. Even in his late-game growth, his narrative remains centered on his own comfort. Howard's life became about someone else. Therefore, while Sheldon achieved his dream of a Nobel Prize, Howard achieved the much harder dream of a functional, happy family. Look at the finale. Sheldon wins the Nobel, but he's still the man who needs a soft kitty bedtime song. He finally apologizes, yet the core of his identity is still the center of his own universe. But Howard is the soul of the show. He underwent a total identity death. He killed the creep. He survived the enmeshment. He broke the cycle of abandonment. He proves that your childhood isn't a life sentence. You can wear a mask for 20 years and still have time to take it off. Because the real life lesson isn't about finding your father. It's about having the courage to outgrow him. And that is exactly why Howard Wolowitz remains the show's most misunderstood case study.